Hey everyone, it's Josh from Church Online in Asbury Park. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to begin a brand new series today called Resilient. We're going to look at the life of Joseph the Dreamer as it's told in the book of Genesis. And I know that there are things for each and every one of us as we learn what it means to press on. Stick around. Joseph the Dreamer, what an awesome name and an awesome association, the Dreamer. You know, we all have dreams, what we want to be when we grow up. You know, ever just sit there and think about the future and maybe even your family and where you want to live and you know, some dream of a better life or maybe even a way out of their situation. Some people dream of winning championships or maybe to be famous or to make a fortune. Well, unfortunately for some people, dreams don't play out like they envision. They face trials, hurdles, detours, and roadblocks. Yet, some keep pushing forward and they keep fighting for a better tomorrow. They fight for their dreams. Well, in this series, we're going to see a young boy who was the family favorite and hated by his brothers. And God spoke to him about the plan for his life. And he faced incredible hurdles as he journeyed from the pasture to the palace. He could have easily given up at many points in his story, but he didn't. Instead, he was resilient. He pressed on. He got up from each detour and he journeyed on. We have a lot to learn from Joseph as we navigate roadblocks and detours in our lives today. Do you find yourself searching for your calling? Maybe you're facing temptation, or maybe you have a situation you just want to break free from. Maybe your family tree hasn't set you on a solid path, and maybe you're dealing with a broken relationship that needs healed. Well, Joseph, in his story, he faced all of these, and we can learn from his experience how we too can be resilient. When we think of someone being resilient, we think of the wounded warrior who saved the lives of his brothers and sisters. There's all kinds of awesome movies like that. We think of the unexpected athlete who fought through improbable odds to win a world championship. How about the underdog who wasn't expected to make it at all, but they made it big? Or the young couple who came from difficult beginnings and was finally able to start a new family when no one thought it would ever happen for them. Or how about the young man who faced discrimination to lead a revolution that brought forth change? How about the cancer patient who was resilient and fought through health battles to rise victorious? Stories that make the impossible reality. Stories about, the doubtful turning into the unbelievable, the difficult into miracles, the awkward into amazing. To be resilient is to have the ability to recoil, to spring back, to withstand and recover quickly from difficult conditions. To be resilient is to have the ability to adapt to life's roadblocks. Well, Joseph, he was 17 years old at the time we pick up his story in Genesis Big 37. His father's name is Jacob, and we read about him earlier in Genesis. So what do we know about Jacob? Well, as a young man himself, he tricked his father for the family inheritance. Then he was hunted by his brother Esau, so he ran away from his family, traveling 200 miles on foot. He ended up with his uncle, and he worked for him and was treated basically like a slave, and in the end, he was tricked himself. Funny how it comes back on him. Jacob had children by 4 different women. He had 12 sons and 1 daughter, and it was one great big messed up family. Yet, God still used this family to further his promise, to further his plan. And that plan was to become the nation of Israel, and Joseph is part of this family tree. We could say maybe a dysfunctional family tree, but Joseph was a part of it. Now Joseph is loved by his father Jacob, and because his mother was Rachel, and Rachel was the one that Jacob loved the most. So the woman he loved the most gave him a son in his old age whom he loved the most. So this just pretty much made it awkward in a large family. Just imagine the dinner table conversations and maybe the hatred the family members could have had for each other. A favored child that is spoiled doesn't win many allies in the home. What little we know for sure of Joseph's younger years is that he was a tattletale, and he reported things back to his father about his brothers. Being one of the youngest children meant he got to see all the stupidity of his older brothers and all the shenanigans that they were involved in because of his favoritism with his dad. He had access to his dad, and he told his dad what was going on. Joseph is then rewarded with a special prize. He got a special coat. It was a bright coat that none of the others would have had. And this coat or tunic was not one worn by a workman, and worn out in the field or in the shop. It was not even worn by a foreman. It was worn by someone who was an owner of the business. It was a garment of privilege. All of this makes the brothers hate him even more. Joseph, he also had another thing going against him in his brother's eyes. He was a dreamer. Joseph had unique dreams, and of the ones recorded in Scripture, they're all about the future. Joseph shares two of these dreams with his brothers, and the first is about how his family was out in the field and they were harvesting grain, and each of them had a pile of grain, and Joseph's pile rose higher than the others, especially his brothers, and each of the brothers' piles bowed down in front of Joseph's pile. He's not going to win over, his brothers with this one, but then he has another one, and this one's about the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to Joseph. Mother, father, children all bowing down to Joseph. And this one is interesting. Scripture tells us that even Jacob, his father, was offended by this, and his brothers were made jealous. But our family units are so vital in the foundation of our understanding of life, about right and wrong, about values, our worldview, and how we view religion and Christianity. And there's so many other things. It's hard to even fathom how important family is to our upbringing. But family matters. Our upbringing sets us on a track that we either want to follow, we either want to get off as quickly as possible, or it leads us somewhere down the middle, living life trying to reverse the unhealthy behaviors we saw from our parents as now we are adults. I think there's a part of each of us that naturally wants to do it better for our future generations, as our parents did the same for us. Our parents tried to fix things from their upbringing, and their children on the other end are trying to do the same thing. The problem, though, is that when our family is dysfunctional, everything in our world lands in this lifestyle of dysfunction. Family problems bring family problems. But we need to remember that our family tree does not have to be the deciding factor on the type of fruit our lives produce. It helps for sure, but it doesn't have to be the deciding factor. If you come from difficult circumstances with your family, or you're in the middle of a tough time right now, your future, the life you have to live ahead of you, doesn't have to be determined by the environment you were raised in. You can rise up, you can seek God's direction for your life, and become resilient towards the plan God has for you. There are countless stories of people who have come from unfathomable situations to becoming people who help change other people's lives for the better. You can be one of those stories. I can be one of those stories. Being resilient means you grab hold, you grab onto this verse, you grab this verse right here, and you understand it and you apply it. And it's from Philippians big 4, little 14. Philippians big 3, little 14, and it says this: I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Jesus Christ. I press toward the mark of the calling of God in Jesus Christ. Maybe your marriage is struggling. Well, be resilient. Seek help. Don't give up. Maybe you come from a troubled past. Be resilient. Seek God's love and acceptance. Keep fighting. Maybe you're facing tough times. Well, be resilient. Press on. Seek Jesus Christ. Keep going. No family is perfect. So take today. Love those in your life and start fresh. Press on. Make good choices today for what is in front of you right now. Be resilient. Like Joseph, there's more to your story to come. I knew this lady, we'll just call her Jo. And Jo is just a wonderful woman, and she came from such a terrible past, an abusive home, a broken family in every way imaginable that you can imagine, a sexually abusive situation as a child. And she broke free of that family tree. And she got saved. She met Jesus Christ, and it changed her life completely. And she went on to become a pastor. And Jo spent her entire life serving those right back in the gutter where she came from. That can be you. That could be your story if you're there. It doesn't have to be the X, Y, and Z of Jo's story. But if there's something in your family tree that you feel is just a roadblock for you, you can break free of that. You can be resilient. You can press on. You can find a new path in life. And you seek after God. Seek after Jesus Christ. And an experience with Him can produce new fruit in your life. So let's be resilient this week. What does that mean for you as we go and enter into this new series looking at the life of Joseph the dreamer and how we can be resilient? God be with you.